I thought as an MC, I'm the most unorthodox, right? I thought that nobody really approached the mic with the various cadence and the awkwardness that I do.
The awkwardness? What do you mean by that?
Camouflage, chameleon, ninja skill in your building, no time to grab the gun, they already got your wife and children, right? Nobody wasn't doing that back in the early 90s.
Well, thanks for being part of this thing. Basically what this is I'm launching this new project, Try. I thought I'd speak to some interesting people and eloquent people about the topics that are important to me that I want to get across on the record, that are kind of the through line on the record. Mm-hmm. And then what we'll do is we will sample bits of what you say and put them in an interlude, like you did, obviously, with a lot of your old Kung Fu movies. And that way it's kind of, we're able to speak on what the record means to us.
Smart.
You're an artist across all these different mediums, but you're also a really spiritual person. And to me, that's like the part of your mind that I really wanted to explore. How would you classify yourself as an artist?
I think I would classify myself as an artist as, I'll put a few words on it. I thought as an MC, I'm the most unorthodox, right? I thought that nobody really approached the mic with the various cadence and the awkwardness of that I do. I don't think that people approach it that way.
The awkwardness? What do you mean by that?
Camouflage, chameleon, ninja skill in your building, no time to grab the gun, they already got your wife and children, right? Nobody wasn't doing that back in the early 90s, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or on the Gravediggers, I cried as the blood dripped inside of my eye, refusing to die. Vision of torment. Like, it's like, you know, there's no place to hide once I slept inside. It's like nobody wasn't doing that type of, almost like vibrato on the mic, right? And then nobody also was like, people were rhyming to the boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba. And I'm not rhyming to that. I'm not worried about what the beat is doing. So my word is not going to fall on the beat. I'll give you one more example. Cuba Links Part 2, as everybody is doing all those great mafioso lyrics, I come in, solid gold crown is shining with blinding lights from diamonds on me climbing on the sky with a cloud with silver lining, double-breasted, right? Well protected, the heart, the rib cage, the chest, and solar plexus, casting stones, cracking 206 bones, and watch your ass get thrown to a sea of fire and brimstones. How do you approach it with them poems? The overfiend, light, noble being, glean shows what a soldier mean, the grand exquisite, the imperial wizard, or is it the resurrector, come to pay your ass? It's like and that's before people was doing that. Because when they was doing it, it was like, bum, scooty, bum, bum. Like they was rolling it.
Yeah.
And I was the cattle machine gun rap. So that's just part of my unorthodoxness.
Right.
And the other thing I'll just add to the unorthodox is my subject matters. So this is why you see me, it's one MC, the RZA on Wu-Tang, then you see me as a Gravedigger MC, then you see me Bobby Digital, who's going into the future, right? And then you see me also one of the MCs who probably did expound it, some of the most spiritual ideas and esoteric concepts lyrically, you know? So unorthodox. But then I was also an innovator. And I'm not complimenting myself with that, but as an artist, I strive not to repeat what I've done. Sometimes that's not good.
Right. Yeah, because people are expecting it.
Yeah,
I would say you accomplish doing, not repeating what you've done, but what anybody's done, you know?
Respect.
Like,
so that's the innovation. But I think for the last year, especially when I was working on the ballet, as well as writing my new film, somebody who knew me well, knew me for 25 years or more, it says, you're just artistically curious. Your mind is just so curious that you keep experimenting.
yeah.
I'm a very curious artist. I want to know why. I want to know if I can do it or if I can interpret it.
I mean, because you're an author, you've written books, you're a filmmaker, you're an actor, you're a MC, you're a producer, you're like a record exec kind of too. You put records together.
I've done exactly.
Did you ever worry that you might be like watering down your creative output by having it kind of parsed out in so many different directions? I ask because sometimes I worry about that about myself.
I don't worry about that because one thing I've discovered early is that art is a wavelength. Okay? And in that wavelength, right, like a sample wave or a light wave, art is a wavelength. And just like someone can take his breath and blow through a brass instrument, he'll get some sound out of it. Or he could take his breath and blow through a wood instrument and get a different sound. Or he could do the Dougie Fresh with his breath. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the art is always there. The instrument changes.
Right.
And I did speak to some of my buddies about this, to my Quentin. There was a point where we spent a lot of time together. And because I was watching him as an artist, I was able to question him as an artist. And one thing that I questioned him on was, hey, yo, you ever know how to draw? He said, what you mean? I said, well, no, it was one year of my life, I could draw. And I would sit there and draw shit, yo. And it was like a year of my life. That's what I was doing.
Right.
And he said, yeah. He had a moment in his life like that. Right? And he wants to play instruments, but he wasn't playing instruments because he never learned instruments. But he hears music in his head. And so he turns to his records for that.
Right.
And he's able to curate great music.
Great music.
Okay?
Yeah.
Versus create. Right? So even the art of listening, it's an art. Right? Because some people have that ear that can hear something. And I'll say to go back to my time with him, we used to be watching movies together. And it'd be maybe 10, 12 people could be there. And while the movie reaches a certain point, people are like, and when the music do something, only two people in the audience react. It'll be me and him. And he'd be way over there, I'd be way over here. You hear something like, oh. Like that. Like, you know what I mean? So art is a wavelength. And I'm satisfied with the ability to know that. And that the formula of that wave or the frequency, shall I say, the frequency of that wavelength can be tuned to whatever I'm doing, right? Now, also we must understand that the technical part of expressing art can be learned, right? So the piano and the guitar are two totally different tuned instruments for expressing music, right? And they both considered rhythm in their own way, right? But some argue that a piano is not really musically logical.
How's that?
Because these are keys hitting the hammer, right? That is set up in a way that you don't get the total physical expression that you could get from a string.
Right, sure. And it's tempered. It's even tempered, isn't it? Yeah.
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 So they debate that, right? But I still of course I disagree with that, because I still say that at the end of the day, the way somebody touches that.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? You know, Method Man told me that his father said that to him one day, and he said it to me. He said, my dad said it ain't the keys, it's how the person touch it. And you be touching that shit. He was complimenting me. And it's just like, I said, oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Because, like, he could go over and even if it's a sample, the way that they're pressing the velocity of that sample is not the same as the way I press the velocity of that sample. You know what I mean? It's not the same way or the same moment in time that my loop is happening. You listen to boom, 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 but what? It's like, what the? That was a crazy loop. At the end of the day, there's really no drum pattern that's tying it together. The drum pattern has to breathe because the drum pattern cannot loop underneath the way that loop was.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but that's the timing of that. Now that's going to the art of ear.
Right.
You don't know what's going to inspire you to find the expression of you. You're going to want to express yourself no matter what. The frequency wants to get out. And if imagine yourself in a cell with nothing, no instruments, no samplers, no nothing. And yet you want to hear music. You want to express music. You're going to tap the bar, tap your chest, move your feet. You're going to do something because you can't help but create.
That's really dope, man. I love the art of listening. I love that. That's such a dope idea. I've never thought about that. It makes me think, like, being a musician forever, then I started doing filmmaking stuff, and it's also like the deeper your understanding of your medium or your craft, you start listening in a more artful way. Now I see light a lot different. Like, I'll just be walking around and I have this deeper understanding of the way light works because of filmmaking, and I'll just be like, oh, that's really cool, the way the light, or even listening, like back when I was a kid, I'd hear shit one way, and then I started becoming a music producer, and I'd be like, oh, that frequency is actually coming from there, but that one frequency is bouncing from over here, and it's like I have this deeper understanding. But the art of listening, I think that's a really dope concept, and like, yeah, the art of watching.
Scientifically, they say that at minimum, your brain can respond 7 times before the word come out from listening. So you could hear me now, and you had 7
thoughts
before you say yo back.
Wow. That's interesting. That's like almost like a processor speed or something, right? I mean, fuck, like, language really is it's like a dithered expression of pure thought. And a meme is actually like compressed information.
Yeah.
Like almost like the way MP3 or something will compress. It's like that's what a meme is. But
that's what a lyric is.
Right. Yeah. Poetry. Yeah, it's a bigger idea.
Think about a song that, you know, whether you wrote it with your band or you guys put out in the past or you're working on this new album, and think about the lyric of one sentence and what's being conveyed in that lyric. How much time is being conveyed? You know what I mean? You know, Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who thinks that I'm the one, but the kid is not my son. We don't went from a girl who think that you did it and you got a child. And that's just 3 lines, but it takes 9 months for a baby. You know what I mean? So even the lyric is compressed ideas. And as a lyricist, that's been one of my ultimate goals, is I stuff my lyric with I call my lyric concentrated grape juice. You got to add water to this shit. You know what I mean? Even for my first time, chill with the feedback. That got 3 meanings. Feedback from the sound of the mic. Feedback, the homies, niggas in the club acting crazy. So Black, we don't need that. It's 10 o'clock. Ho. Now, why I say it's 10 o'clock, ho, where the fuck should see that? Because in New York City, they always had that commercial.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm saying that to the time, to the nighttime, to the beef. And where the fuck is your seed at? Where your children at? Feeling mad hostile? Wearing El Pasto. Right? But then El Pasto is like apostle, flowing like Christ when I speak the gospel. Then I stroll with a holy robe. Now I'm going to Shaolin. The movie's called The Holy Robe of Shaolin. And the abbot only gets to wear that. So I stroll with the holy robe, then attack the globe with the buckus style, the ruckus. So it's like it's compressed, and that's the mediocre level of it. As time went on, we was able to express, you know.
I don't know how mediocre that is, in my opinion, but I feel like it's interesting with art. Like you might not have even known all those meanings. Like, I love how that happens sometimes. Listening, in the art of listening, sometimes you don't even get the meanings.
Right.
Then years later, you'll be like, oh, that also means that. But same thing with writing lyrics, I find. Sometimes I write something, and then I later realize what it's about, or the other levels that it's about.
But that's beautiful, too, because that's to me, when the artist write a lyric, and the writer of the lyric himself discovers more meaning to what he wrote, that means the lyric was inspired, right? So you look at inspiration, right? We know what in means. It means internal. Spirit, meaning the spirit or the air or the fire or an energy that exists. And action, meaning now it's an action. So now you have something that's internally moving and making action in you. Just like imagination is an image and action in your mind before it becomes physical. So inspiration and imagination, when those things play through that vessel, which is your instrument, your body is that instrument now, it's almost infinite on what can be the deciphering of what was said.
That's crazy, man. That's a crazy idea.
Well, I'll give you a movie idea. I don't know if you ever seen that movie called Hero, Jet Li.
No.
Well, the punchline was the poet of that movie. He was working for so many ways of what's the best way to write the one word, which was sword. And he wrote it 1,000 ways before he could finally
Through with calligraphy.
with calligraphy,
Right.
because which makes it, calligraphy is deeper, right?
Yep.
And he was just trying to get the one way that when the emperor sees it, it hits him here.
Mm.
Because you can hit somebody here, you can hit them in the, you get them horny, you can get them in the knees, you can get them hung, but he wanted to hit them right in the heart without 50,000 things, just like we say the word peace when we when we greet people, we say peace. Why peace? Well, peace is the absence of confusion, right? It's like there's a big energy in that. If New York, peace, peace. Damn, you're saying a lot when you just say that to somebody. So he was striving for that one word. And when you think about inspiration, when you are writing lyrics, or even when you're playing music, because you could be playing music on the keyboard, and all of a sudden it's not you playing,
Yes.
right? It's just
Something coming through
yeah,
you.
inspiration is playing you, and you might can't do it twice.
We were talking about who you are as an artist, and like to me, you were so conceptual also, and like your records before you were making films were already like films. Like it was such a complete vision in that way, and like it had so many layers to it, and thought and imagination. Now that you are a filmmaker, what would you say you take from being a music producer into your filmmaking?
Everything, as a music producer, you're still striving to tell a story, right? And you strive to tell that story first musically. And if you become good at it, because by the time the world met me, I became good at it,
Hmm.
right? I was past just boom, boom, bap with one sound on it, even though I've made tracks like that. But by the time you get the Can It Be So Simple, Wu-Tang Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, Brain the Ruckus, those are realized movements and tracks using samples to express something. And we go back to the art of listening. When I was looking for a sound for Brain the Ruckus, the CD skipped. I sampled that.
Wow.
And that's the horns in the song.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I played the bass line on my
Yeah.
finger, but it was like, what's the timing? I caught that 1 inch of time to make that which had no time become in time. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's listening. That's hearing something, imagining something, needing something, using something. But to answer your question, it totally is my foundation, because when our days of growing, there was no screens in your car, no CDs, no DVD players, and none of that. That didn't come out yet. It was just your cassette. And a lot of us in my era, we always drove from New York to DC or the VA, you know what I mean, go see a chick, go to college, go to Howard. And I wanted people to have my tape, put it in their car, and have a movie. You know what I mean? I wanted them to, like, they watching a movie in their
Right.
minds, listening to me when they head to their trip. I didn't want them to stick me in, take another one out, stick another song, because back in those
Right.
days, or take a song and make a mixtape. I
Hmm.
wanted my tape to be your movie. And then as I got better, by the time I got to Cuban Links, I had a whole story now.
Hmm.
Like I imagined Cuban Links was three guys trying to start a robbery. And they do it. It's one for you, two for me. Right? And on the song Knuckleheads for my brain, U-God dies on that song. So he's in the first song. But he's not on that rest of the whole album. Only Raekwon and Ghost continues the journey. As many crime movies are like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was that idea. And then when I started making Man with the Iron Fist, I remember talking to my actors. And I had problems with some of my actors. And my way of communicating with them was using my Wu-Tang experiences.
Mm.
We had ran out of time for one big scene. We had 6 pages of dialogue, and it was like the costume was wrong, everything was wrong. With the number one actor on my call sheet, okay? And everything was wrong. And they call. I'm in China, mind you. Now I'll make this story short, but they called back to Universal, like, yo, we're gonna need 2 more days. Mind you, I had a 52-day shoot.
Wow.
They wasn't giving no more days.
Right.
You make your day, that's the gag.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like, yo, you're not gonna make your day. It's impossible to get all this. We don't burn 5 hours. It's lunch now, and nothing has been shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 hours after lunch.
Yeah.
And I went to the actor who had the same name as ODB. I said, yo, you know what? ODB did shame on the nigga. He walked in the studio and he did that shit in one take. You know what I mean? And that shit was a masterpiece. I mean, that was one of the early songs that people heard that. They was like, that was, and I said, this have to be a one take Jake. And we went in there, set those cameras up, and he was like, he did that whole, I am Mr. Knife. He went through 6 pages on us. Killed that shit. And yo, you should have seen everybody on set just, like everybody just saw genius at work.
Right.
But if I wasn't a music producer, I wouldn't have the skill set to be a film director, to deal with individual personalities, to have the patience or foresight. Because when you make film, you got to be patient making film. Mm-hmm. Right?
And planning ahead, too.
And planning ahead. And then I'm saying on the day when you're shooting, you still got to be patient. You got to be patient for the dolly track. The actor could be ready now, but the dolly ain't ready. And you got to, at all times, hold your mind ready. Mm-hmm. But if you do hold your mind ready, and I always tell people, I use Captain Kirk as an example. You got to be Captain Kirk, bro. You know what I mean? And he beams down sometime, but only when he knows that he got somebody else good to sit in that chair.
That's dope, man. Are you a collaborator by nature? And what do you love about collaboration?
I think by nature, I'm not a collaborator. I think I learned to become a collaborator. I think because by nature, I started my artistic journey as an MC. And an MC is a self-dependent, self-reliant individual, like a samurai. And he has to walk and protect himself at all times with his sword. He don't have nobody else to swing their sword for you. You only can swing your sword. But after becoming a master of individualism, I then understood the power of collaboration. You know what I mean? And I didn't learn that until, I learned it before Wu-Tang Clan, but I started writing my first lyrics at the age of 9. And it was me. You know what I mean? Me trying to do it. And then, of course, by the time I'm 10, I was writing the lyrics for my buddies. You know what I mean? I pass them out in class. Like, one for you, one for you, one for you. But the idea was, to me, you start off individually. But the true power of collaboration, for me, came in the filmmaking process. Because making an album...
So collaborative. Such a collaborative process, man.
I'll say making an album, at best, even a Wu-Tang Clan album, at best, you say you got some musicians in there. Maybe at best you got 16 people at best. That's still a lot, right? Because you got the engineer, the musicians, and the MCs. Making a movie, like Man with the Iron Fist, no, it's 400 people working for us.
But still, man, being in music and being in filmmaking, it's a different type of organization, and like the force of your vision and collaboration and leadership, really, like Wu-Tang Clan. Having worked with a bunch of those dudes, right. And even being around you, like seeing you, like I remember there was I think it was the last Wu-Tang show I was with you. It was out in Riverside or something, and just seeing like the force of your creativity and vision, wrangling all those characters, like such a eccentric people, all in their own wavelength. There was a lot of power in like being a collaborator and a leader in collaboration. Like that's.
Like I learned that. I 1 year, I'll share this with you. It was doing Man with the Iron Fist when I was out there in China, and we was having some success, and of getting what we were getting ready to do at Thanksgiving. So I didn't start shooting yet, but I was having success, and like the actor signed on. It's happening, and I looked around. and said, wow, I got a lot of people here. I'm dealing with a lot of personalities. And I said, oh, I got it. I know where I got it from now. I'm one of 11 children,
Oh wow.
you know what I mean? And I'm in the middle. And I say, and I wrote a long email, I should look it up when there was a beautiful letter to all my siblings, thanking them. It was because it was Thanksgiving, and I wasn't gonna be there. I just wrote a beautiful letter, like I want to thank y'all. Y'all don't realize, one, you used to always tell lies, but I would be the one that knew the truth, but maybe helped you out a little bit. You was stealing shit. Oh, you was bullying. You know what I mean? You needed more help. Why was you eating toilet paper? You was like you eating toilet paper every night, like the salt in it. What was it? But 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 all these personalities, including my own personality, I was very sickly. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one that they may have to carry me to the ambulance. You know what I mean? Because of my lungs and my I was sickly when I was young. I do think that my brothers and sisters was my first teachers, and I may have had something that was inherent in me to be able to collaborate because I come from a big family.
That's really interesting, man. Huh, that's cool. And interesting that because you are a creative leader, interesting being a middle child, like, you think that might come from the oldest. Do you believe in God? And do you have like a religious and spiritual practice? Or what's your system of beliefs?
Let me say this to you. I told my children that God is personal. It's a personal thing, and I gave my one son the Bible. I gave the other one the Quran. You know what I mean? Find it yourself. You know what I mean? It's personal. But I'm not shy to say, all praise is due to Allah. And then when I say that, somebody may say he's talking about God. And then I would argue, no, I'm not. Because there's been so many gods. Somebody may say you're a God. Some people call me God. You know what I mean? And God is a definition and a description. It has an etymology to it. And the etymology is Greek, they would say. And it just simply meant three attributes: wisdom, strength, and beauty. Guma, Duba, as they would say. I'm not probably pronouncing it properly. It was originally what they called the sun. So they wrote the sun. The original way they wrote the sun was something like GWD. And that was for the sun. And eventually it became God. And it just meant three things: the wisdom, the strength, and the beauty. And those are three attributes that you can obtain, and I can obtain, and your girl can obtain, your daughter can obtain, your son can obtain. And if you have those attributes, you're being godly. You know what I mean? Some people got wisdom but don't got strength. Some got strength and don't got beauty. Some got beauty but don't got wisdom. So at least get those attributes. Strive to have that in yourself, or at least if you want to pray to a higher being, like for instance, the English translation of God, it says the supreme being. Well, in order to be a supreme being, you must be supreme amongst other beings. And you can be that as well. This is why over history we had some men. He's a supreme leader. It was David One and shit. You know what I mean? Because I don't think we have the full language and word to really express what we would say the creator of the universe, or the creator of. I hate to quote somebody on this, but I think it'd be the best way because I don't have the words. I don't think nobody truly have the words, but I think this was a good reference point. I think Rumi the poet said that man is like the vice regent of Allah, right? And he said man is the finite version of the infinite. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm gonna give you one thing on top of that.
Great.
Okay, so in science of the universe, how many stars have been located or have been counted?
Hundreds of millions.
Okay.
Billions.
Okay, keep going.
I mean, it's infinite, really.
Right, but let's say you say a trillion.
Okay.
Let's say you say 10 trillion. Say you say 50 trillion. 60 trillion. 70 trillion. I mean, this number is sounding great, right? How many cells in your body? 70 trillion.
70 trillion.
Yeah. The earth is 25,000 miles in circumference. The blood vessels in your body is 60,000 miles if you was to line them up. You could wrap yourself around the earth twice in your own little body. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Calcium, gold, zinc, all the 99 elements that forms everything around us is in your physical body.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I said in one of my lyrics, I said, the earth produces lava like the mouth produces saliva. The earth produces lava like your mouth produces saliva. But this wisdom, it goes deeper than a scuba diver who's looking for pearl, jewel sold in Tiffany. But the verbal art symphony should strike an epiphany, then insight, and then ignite. And then you might see love in hell and find hell and right, but then excel to become master of your own circumference. And that comes first by obtaining mastery of your common sense. And this supreme wisdom will clear man vision so you can see through the lies and the phantasm of the equivocal, two-faced political individual who's only out for residual. They fabricate lies to eradicate the wise. But we come to civilize and gravitate to the skies of the heaven and the celestial sphere. And trust me, son, it's there in between your ears. That's where the heaven is going to be. A day to God is 1,000 years. But men walk around with 1,000 fears. The true joy of love can bring 1,000 tears. But in this world of desire, it's 1,000 snares. So,
it's interesting, man. It's like I feel like it's like the parallel of the infinite and the finite, and like inner space and outer space.
Exactly.
Like it's like
vast.
the same thing. Yeah.
People caught in cyberspace.
Yeah.
I said they don't know outer space. You don't know your inner space. You caught in cyberspace. You don't know how dinner tastes. Right? Because it's genetically modified. It's genetically modified. I was like, yo, you don't even know the true taste of the food no more because it's been genetically modified. But anyway, that's a whole nother chamber.
You were talking a little bit about people out for residuals. Does money and materialism drive you? Like, is that a big motivation for you?
Partially it happens. In the beginning, it didn't exist, right? Necessity is necessity, right? I'm a man that worked for a living.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I sold newspapers. I had a job that all I did was put screws in a box. That was my monkey could have did it.
Mm-hmm.
And they made me stand up all day. 50 screws in the box. That's what you got to do. But I got paid. So out of necessity, money is always important when money is the currency. Currency meaning something that causes things to move, the energy. If money is the currency, then you got to get your currency in order to have energy. But in all truth, when we was making 36 Chambers and even my last album, it wasn't about the money. It was just about creating.
Mm-hmm.
I am a pragmatic person, so there's been years of my life where I was like, yo, I'm getting money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Straight up and down, you know what I mean? And I got it. You know what I mean? But it's not my driving force. In fact, when it became my driving force, not only did I not get money, my art suffered.
Yep. It does. It does that.
As valuable as it is, it's not valuable. If you right now was really hungry, right now in this room, with all this stuff you got in here and the money in your bank account, and we closed the door, and nobody gave us a sandwich, we fucked up. You need a sandwich more than you need the money, bro. What are you gonna do with the money? What are you gonna do with any of this shit? Nothing. Right? So I teach the 12 jewels: knowledge, wisdom, understanding, freedom, justice, equality, food, clothing, shelter, love, peace, and happiness. And you don't need money for none of that because all that's provided by nature itself. Man interferes with that. That's the catch.
This is the last question I always ask everybody. If you had one message that you wanted to express to leave the universe with as your, like, what you were about as a human, as an artist, what would you say, like, the central message to who you are and how you express yourself is?
It's a big question, but I think those 12 jewels would fulfill my answer if it was something I had to put it down. 'Cause it's like you gotta obtain knowledge, right? And just look at the word knowledge. You just gotta know. You gotta obtain wisdom. It's the experience and the expression of what you know. You gotta obtain understanding, because once you know and you speak and you express, now he could see it. That's why they say understanding is the most clearest picture that the mind can form, because it's clear now. Once he said E equals MC squared, you don't. When you understand it, you know what it means. If not, it's just letters. You gotta have freedom, but freedom gotta operate under the law of justice, right? So I'm free to smack you in the face, but justice is a reward or penalty for my actions. So therefore, I'm better off dealing with equality. So freedom operates under the law of justice, and justice operates under the law of equality. And that could be mentally or spiritually, because you also better have a free dome. You know what I mean? Our domes are trapped. That's why somebody could sit there and be like, yo, we all pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible. How can we be divided and say that we're American when our pledge is that it's one nation? And then, of course, there's food, and that's mental and physical, right? Clothing is mental and physical, because clothing covers your body, but what kind of clothing what kind of cloak of righteousness? Are you wearing a cloak of righteousness? You know what I mean? Are you getting food from the tree of life versus food from the tree of the ground? And are you getting shelter? Of course, we're in shelter now, but sometimes you got to shelter yourself from the atmosphere of evil or wickedness, or the atmosphere of danger and somebody else. If right now, if we stayed in this room for a long time and I'm stinking, you're gonna stink too. You know what I mean? And then, of course, love, peace, and happiness. And love is the highest elevation of understanding. But what is love without peace? If you don't got peace, you'll never have happiness, even with love.
Man, it's deep. Man, as always, every time I talk to you, I'm just amazed by your clarity of like your vision of the universe, man. It's like, yeah, I don't think I know anybody that I think you're just such a thinker, man. Like it's always blows me
It's
away,
always a
man.
pleasure to see you and build with you. I can't wait to hear the music you do and what comes out with it. And I can't wait to see your film, man.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for being part of this. Appreciate you, man.